Ports all across the West Coast preparing for a major slowdown in just a matter of days, the result of President Trump's trade war with China.
And it's a precipitous drop in volume, with a number of major American retailers stopping all shipments from China based on the tariffs.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. In response to President Trump's tariffs, many U.S. companies are pausing or scaling back shipments from China, and that's going to hit ports all across the West. The Port of Los Angeles, which handles the most cargo from China, is expecting the number of shipments arriving next week to drop by 35% compared to the same time period last year. The port's executive director, Gene Soroka, spoke with CNBC and said that downturn is related to the Trump administration's 145% tariffs on Chinese goods. He described what he's expecting in the coming weeks.
Real key indicator that I've been looking at is for the month of May arrivals. We'll see 20 canceled sailings. That's about a quarter of the normal arrivals that we have, and therefore this drop will continue throughout the next month. And realistically, what we're going to see next is that retailers have about 5 to 7 weeks of full inventories left, and then the choices will lessen.
And in the San Francisco Bay Area, workers at the Port of Oakland have said they have already seen a significant drop in foreign cargo since the tariffs on Chinese goods went into effect. And this pullback on shipments into West Coast ports is likely to affect a variety of workers, including truckers who deliver all those containers. Industry leaders are also bracing for a slowdown. Federal data shows imports make up nearly 40% of what trucks carry. Some industry leaders are expecting a slowdown similar to the one we saw back in 2019 during the last U.S.-China trade war. Experts say truckers learned from that experience, and fleet owners are adjusting their game plans, holding on to trucks, trailers, and other critical parts for a longer period of time.
The people here coming the next 9 months or so probably going to be looking to keep their equipment a little longer, just wait it out. I know freight rates are down, interest rates are up.
And new data from FreightWaves, a price reporting agency that tracks the global freight market, shows U.S. truckload shipments are down 15.2% year over year. Joining us now to talk more about what we can expect in the shipping industry moving forward is Vinny Agrawal, a professor of business and political science at UC Berkeley. Professor, always appreciate the time. It's good to have you on tonight. The president's steep tariffs on China took effect about 2 weeks ago. Why are we just now seeing West Coast ports expecting and preparing for this sharp drop in shipments?
Well, the first thing that happens when you have this expectation of high tariffs is that people will try to import as much as possible. So we actually saw an increase into ports like Oakland, where actual imports went up rather than down. But now that was actually just artificial because it was in anticipation of very high tariffs. So that's the real problem we're facing. And of course, California is highly reliant on its ports are very important. 40% of our imports come through California ports. 30% of our exports go out through California ports. And we live in the Bay Area, and Oakland is a critical port here. It's number 3 in California. So I think it's really going to be a problem for jobs and many other issues that we've been already talking about in your broadcast.
Yeah, and we talk about the implications for the trucking industry specifically, and a slowdown at ports in this part of the country is likely to have a huge ripple effect. What do you think this means for longshoremen who handle those containers at our ports and the other workers who are involved all along the way in getting these goods to our stores?
Well, I think it's a terrible outcome for them. I think you can bluster all you want about how I'm going to help workers, as the president has done, but at the end of the day, you're not helping workers by having them lose their jobs. Many of these people voted for Trump. I understand why they might have been thinking that Trump would help them a lot, but the reality is that Trump has not done that. In fact, he's already created greater uncertainty just recently, yesterday, when he started saying, I might start imposing tariffs, even though there's a 90-day moratorium for 3 months starting in early April. I might start doing it in 2 or 3 weeks. This continuous uncertainty is really bad for business. It's really bad for workers, and it's really bad for consumers. If you really cared about workers and businesses, you would have some alternative strategy if you want to play in a aggressive strategy towards the Chinese. I think the Chinese have done some things that we're unhappy about, but this is not the way to go about doing it. If you just are half right about the problem, but you have no reasonable solution, American workers will suffer. And I think American consumers will be paying very high prices already. It's hard to get toys for Christmas. So you want to go after China, I get it. But what's the strategy? What are the tactics? What's the step-by-step plan? I just don't see it, as I mentioned before on KTVU.
Yeah.
There is no plan. It's just let me do this by the seat of my pants.
What does this all mean for consumers? You know, you talk about looking ahead to the holiday shopping season. A lot of people already looking that far ahead. And you mentioned that West Coast ports did have this surge in imports over the past few months, trying to get ahead of the tariffs in essence. But
Right.
how long does that stock last? You know, do we reach a point here at some point where it becomes just more difficult to find the goods that you want on store shelves?
Well, we already saw the debacle about Amazon showing how much tariffs are raising their prices, and Trump was very upset with that, and then they backed off. Tariffs are a tax. There's no other way to think about it except as a tax. From an economics perspective, it's a tax, and this notion that everybody is going to reduce their prices so that prices won't go up for the American consumer is a simple fantasy. Prices will go up in the United States. Yes, people imported a lot, but I can tell you it won't last till December. You can't do that. And when tariffs start going into effect, we're really going to have a problem, and consumers will start paying more. And that's why Trump's popularity has been going down, as people begin to realize that chaos in the global economy is not a good strategy.
All right, so looking ahead here, how long do you expect that this slowdown in shipments to West Coast ports is going to last? Does it last up until the time that the tariffs on Chinese goods ease up?
Well, I hope that President Trump realizes that cutting a deal with the Chinese is important. I hope that he's able to bring the Europeans, who have been our allies for all these years, into this kind of control of China. And the Chinese are probably willing to deal if we came up with a proposal that makes some sense to them. And don't forget, President Trump himself is very proud of his January 2020 agreement, and part of it was that the Chinese did not implement it because of COVID. I do hope there will be a deal, but the way things are going right now, and if you just keep raising tariffs to 145%, as the U.S. has done, and we don't have the European allies, and we've also upset the Mexicans and the Canadians and everyone else, I don't think that's going to help us negotiate with the Chinese. So you really need to have a coherent negotiating strategy to be able to deal with the Chinese, and I'm hopeful that President Trump will realize that, because he was able to cut a deal in January 2020.
All right, we appreciate the perspective. As always, that is Professor Vinny Agrawal from UC Berkeley. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you very much.
The growing concerns about tariffs has allowed unfounded rumors to circulate widely online. Viral TikTok videos and Facebook posts have claimed that the Port of Seattle is, quote, effectively dead. It's a notion that port officials have been quick to try to dispel. Tonight, Fox 13's AJ Janavel has more on the effort to put those rumors to rest, despite some serious concerns among officials about President Trump's trade war.
Not a single international cargo ship at the Port of Seattle.
There is not currently a single international cargo ship in the Port of Seattle.
There are no international ships at the shipping ports in Seattle right now.
Tens of thousands hearing this message on TikTok. This post from Facebook, seemingly the source of the script.
The port is effectively dead.
So, is that true?
Port's not dead. The port is alive and well. We're going to continue serving inbound and outbound cargo.
The Northwest Seaport Alliance, representing both ports of Seattle and Tacoma, report the first 4 months of 2025 saw nearly a 20% increase in both domestic and international containers. And in the last month, the Seattle port has seen a 7% increase in volume. While there are claims of the Seattle port looking empty, right now, there are 3 ships docked in Seattle and 3 docked in Tacoma. And in the next 2 weeks, more than 30 international vessels are scheduled to arrive in Tacoma or Seattle, according to the Northwest Seaport Alliance. But there are still concerns on the horizon. In a statement, the Northwest Seaport Alliance said they expect the president's tariffs will cause economic harm and job loss. The president of the Port of Seattle said in a statement, tariffs could mean increased cost and disrupted supply chains. Ryan Culkins, a commissioner with the Port of Seattle, tells me they are actively trying to end this trade war.
And the sooner that we can resolve this, the better. But I also want people to take a deep breath and know that our supply chain will continue, that we have a diverse global economy, and that while there is a major disruption between the United States and China right now, the vast majority of the global trade economy is going to continue, and so there's no reason to panic.
And that was Fox 13's AJ Janavell reporting tonight. The Port of Seattle commissioner says fashion goods like clothing and shoes could see the most significant impact from these tariffs, which could ultimately lead to issues for this year's holiday shopping season. Former Vice President Kamala Harris is set to deliver her first major speech since losing to President Trump in the 2024 election. Harris will deliver the keynote address at the Emerge 20th Anniversary Gala in San Francisco tonight. She's expected to take the stage within the hour. The organization helps to recruit and train Democratic women to run for political office across the country. Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs and New Mexico State Senator Cindy Nava are also set to attend this sold-out event. The Los Angeles County workers are wrapping up their 48-hour strike right now. Tens of thousands of county employees walked off the job yesterday. The employees represented by the union SEIU Local 721 include clerical workers, librarians, nurses, custodians, social workers, and others. They're all demanding fair bargaining toward a new contract, and they claim the county has violated a number of labor laws.
We just want county and administration to do their jobs and to do the right thing for our workers.
At least 14 people have been detained during this two-day strike. LA County disputes the union's claim, saying it offered union workers a $5,000 bonus as part of a 3-year deal that would include other cost of living adjustments. In Arizona, sheriff's deputies tonight are investigating the death of a well-known pastor, and they're calling it suspicious. The victim has been identified as 76-year-old William Schoenman, a pastor at New River Bible Chapel in the town of New River, which is about 35 miles north of Phoenix. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office says they arrived at his home on Monday night, and investigators say there were signs of foul play based on observations at that scene. Schoenman's death has come as a shock to the community.
My reaction is really horror because it sounds so terrible. He's a minister, and it's so close to where we live.
I was shocked. I was just like, what? In New River? No, this stuff happens in like Phoenix.
Investigators right now are working to piece together what led up to Schoenman's death. Detectives were seen outside the New River Bible Chapel yesterday as well, but at this time, it's unclear if his death has anything to do with his job or if any evidence was collected there at the church. Tonight, authorities in Southern California are investigating the death of John Elway's longtime agent and friend who was injured after falling out of a golf cart. 62-year-old Jeff Spurbeck was taken off life support this morning after that fall on Saturday. It happened in La Quinta, just outside Palm Springs. TMZ reports Elway was driving that golf cart when Spurbeck fell from the back of it and hit his head. The group on the golf cart were all coming back from an after party at the Stagecoach Music Festival nearby. Paramedics responded to take Spurbeck to the hospital that night, but the sheriff's office didn't open an investigation until 2 days later.
I think in hindsight, it would have been nice for the police to have been on the scene, for them to talk to everybody, to get everyone's account of what happened.
Spurbeck represented more than 100 NFL players in his career, including Elway. He lived in Orange County. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, a new study shedding light on the effects of a large earthquake along the West Coast, the long-term flooding risk being highlighted in this new report. Also, we told you this week about tourism dropping in California. Tonight, we'll tell you why the city of Las Vegas is also seeing fewer visitors.
And in weather, here is our live camera looking out toward Oakland, the San Francisco Bay Area. A bit of a cool down expected for portions of California, parts of the West Coast in your 3-day forecast, and we'll have the update coming up.
Las Vegas is starting to see a noticeable decline in tourism. The latest numbers from the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority are revealing drops in tourism across the board between this past March and the same time last year. The city saw a nearly 8% drop in overall visitors. The Las Vegas airport's traffic was down 3.9%, and gaming wins within Clark County, which is where Las Vegas is, are also down 1.75%. with a 10% increase in convention attendance. And what officials believe is that means most visitors are coming to Las Vegas for work. In a report summary, the Visitors Authority names President Trump's tariffs as part of this decline, noting fewer Canadians who are visiting Las Vegas. Let's shift now to talk about our weather, and we give you a live look here at Las Vegas. And you can see a beautiful shot here as the sun begins to set. It was a nice warm day, temperatures in the 80s in Las Vegas. Let's bring in KTVU's chief meteorologist Mark Tamayo with a closer look at the forecast across the west. A gorgeous shot there of the Vegas Strip.
Yeah, that's right, Alex. A beautiful camera shot there. It's also picking up some high clouds, as you can see, moving into parts of southern Nevada here, and even some action on the radar as well. So here's a closer look at the radar as we can take a look at a few spots here. There is Las Vegas. Not too much activity in Arizona, but look at all these lightning strikes out toward the Sierra Nevada from earlier this afternoon. The activity has been diminishing somewhat. And then up in the Pacific Northwest, not a lot of radar activity to show you. In fact, fairly clear. Another nice day up there. And so we take a look at the current numbers. Right now, it is 87 degrees in Phoenix. Las Vegas right now, 83. Reno checking in 67. And up in Portland, Oregon, 68. Seattle has cooled out to 59 degrees. And this was Seattle today, showing you just a few high clouds out there. Temperatures in the lower 60s this afternoon. And then in the San Francisco Bay Area, this is looking out above San Francisco, some patchy fog, as you can see showing up in this camera image, 64 degrees. And in Phoenix, you can see some of the high cloud cover drifted into parts of Arizona. Still, though, a warm 91 degrees. Not talking about that extreme heat just yet, but still warm enough for portions of Arizona. Here's the game plan tomorrow. You can see another nice day up in Seattle with partly to mostly sunny skies. Some areas of fog for Southern California, also for the San Francisco Bay Area. Another warm day for Phoenix, and then looks like we could be talking about some more rain showers and maybe some thunderstorms closer to Denver for tomorrow in the Thursday forecast. So here's kind of the breakdown, as you can see, in terms of the forecast, and maybe some more showers out toward the southern Sierra, maybe a few clouds approaching Southern California. Here you can pick out the shower activity for parts of Colorado, out toward parts of the Rockies. And then for Seattle, you can see in the clear for tomorrow. Be keeping an eye on this activity offshore in the Pacific. And here is your Friday forecast. We could cloud things up in the Pacific Northwest by Friday. So here is the forecast, as you can see here for Thursday. It looks like temperatures in the 70s, at least partly to mostly cloudy skies on Friday into the weekend. Definitely some clouds. San Francisco, temperatures close to in the upper 50s to lower 60s. Some lower 70s for Southern California. If you want the heat, you will find it in Phoenix. Those temperatures around 93 to 94 degrees. We'll keep an eye on those showers out in the Denver area. So overall, it looks like a nice forecast for tomorrow. Some areas remain cool, and other areas, as you can see, heating up back up to the lower 90s, remaining that way as we head into the weekend. Alex.
Yeah, you can certainly find the warm weather if you go searching. All right, Mark, thank you. A new study is out, and it's highlighting how a major earthquake off the Northern California coast in the Cascadia subduction zone could cause the land to sink and trigger long-term flooding concerns across much of the West Coast. Researchers say if such a quake happened today, it would likely cause a downward shift of anywhere from 6 inches to 6 feet along coastal areas between southern Washington and Humboldt Bay in California. Study co-author Diego Melgar, head of the Cascadia Region Earthquake Science Center, says this could double the flood risk.
We have schools, firehouses, police stations, hospitals, and clinics. They might be today in places which we would consider maybe safe from flooding, but when we take this new calculation into account, they might not be. And so we need to start having honest and frank conversations about long-term urban planning in these communities so that we can start to prepare. We don't have to move places that are in the potential flood zone right now today, but we have to move them in the coming decades.
And the study says there's a 15% chance of a major quake in that region over the next 50 years.
That we have such incredible military history right here where we're standing, I think is just such an interesting piece of the puzzle.
Coming up tonight on West Coast Wrap, a popular area for hikers in Utah with a deep-rooted history. How the National Guard is stepping in to clear debris from munitions that traces back decades. Also, some Amazon shoppers in Arizona may soon receive their packages from the air via drone. The new facility unveiled today. In Utah, an area near Eagle Mountain, west of Provo, is set to undergo a sweep by the National Guard. As Fox 13's Jeremy Toombs explains tonight, the site was once a military training ground, and authorities are concerned there still could be war munitions and debris underground.
For those who seek adventure in Eagle Mountain, it can often be found right out their back door.
We backed right up to the mountain, which was never going to be built on, and it just felt like we were more part of nature.
The Golden Eagle Pass area has been transformative for Todd Bowerly.
And I started hiking up the hill behind the house here every single day. I lost 60 pounds to the mountain.
Bowerly tries to take 10,000 steps a day here, but it still held secrets he hadn't learned.
This was a great place to conduct military training. A lot of Army units came through this area to prepare for World War I and World War II.
The Utah National Guard says this 51-acre site just southwest of Camp Williams holds munitions debris that could be a century old.
I can only imagine that they kind of had the free reign of the land.
You might be thinking the site looks remote, but in the decades since then, the view has changed quite dramatically.
You look around, none of this housing development was here. It was just a big open mountain.
Now that neighbors have moved in, they're trying to ensure its safety.
They performed an instrument-aided reconnaissance in 2019.
The Army Corps of Engineers will return this summer using equipment that scans below the surface to search again for artillery debris.
Some of these things are just a few inches around and maybe 8 to 10 inches long, so you're not going to mistake it.
The thought of seeing those rounds gives Bowerly pause.
I see people every day going up there, so the concern is it totally safe? I don't know.
But Lieutenant Colonel Chris Krober says they've not found any rounds intact, and the likelihood of doing so is very low.
Military training has an impact on our neighbors. And we really are very conscious to balance being friendly neighbors, right?
They hope this project furthers that balance and keeps Eagle Mountain's backyard a unique place to be.
I've been hiking up in this area, as have many of our residents. That we have such incredible military history right here where we're standing, I think is just such an interesting piece of the puzzle.
In Eagle Mountain, Jeremy Toms, Fox 13.
Well, the sky is the limit in Tolleson, Arizona, as Amazon's drones officially took flight today. The online shipping giant opened the doors of its brand new drone facility today. And now customers who live within 7 miles of this facility can get their packages from Prime Air within the hour. And all it takes is the push of a button.
It's lighter, quieter, and extended range for our customers. So when you place an order via Amazon.com and you get a drone delivery, that drone then lifts off from this launch pad that's behind me and delivers your package within 60 minutes.
Amazon says customers will be able to access more than 50,000 everyday essentials with Prime Air. That includes household, beauty, and office tech supplies. If you are awaiting a delivery, maybe just look up. That does it for West Coast Wrap. Have a great night.